you were there for the fights live, for Dricus and Sean Strickland. Tell me about the experience when you heard and knew. What emotions did you feel? Like, what was that in terms of like, what was the first thing that you thought of being like the first South African to win and bring back a title?
I don't know. I think wow. There were so many emotions that were going on. There was relief that that he had won the fight. There was relief that we had finally achieved it. There was this euphoria to see that happen. Obviously, in a time that is like now, it's current.
Yeah.
For us to eventually see a South African get to that level, and especially have been so intertwined in the process and the build up and the build of the sports in the country, it was incredible. I mean, I think at one stage I even cried. It was just such a powerful moment. There was just so much in it. It's really difficult to explain how the emotions affected me, but it was probably one of the greatest moments in my time in the sport.
Yeah, especially as someone who's obviously fought in the UFC, like what it takes, or like you've seen like the work that needs to be put in terms of getting to that spot. So yeah, and also like having even fought Dricus, like do you feel like it was a surprise for you that he won, or you just knew it was coming all this time?
No, look, I mean, I've always said if there's anybody that can get to that level, it's him.
Sure.
Even from when I first fought him, I just knew there was something special about him.
Yeah.
And he's shown that every time. Look, you don't get there by chance. It's not just something that magically happens. You have to work for that opportunity. His work ethic and discipline towards his craft is quite remarkable. And the fact that he's now world champion is just an exceptional thing. I don't think people understand what you have to do or the level you have to be at to be crowned, to be crowned, the champion of the world. But again, I go back to it's what he's put in over his career and his discipline and his desire and the work ethic and just the exceptional athlete that he is that it got it to this space. So I wasn't surprised. It's not a surprising thing at all. I've always believed that he was the guy that was going to do it. And then, the times that I have spent with him, just reinforced that. It made it stronger. It made that belief stronger, knowing what he was capable of. Obviously, traveling the world and being around the best fighters in the world and seeing what they were and what they were capable of and how they performed, and then just seeing the same from him, it just shows you where he is. And I still believe there's not many fighters in the world that are like Dricus. He just poses so many different questions to his opponents. He just brings a completely different dynamic. He cemented those reasons over the course of his career.
Yeah, and I mean, like you also see it in terms of like, well, you hear it when they say like he's so awkward in there. He's like, you just don't know, and like how powerful he is, how strong he is. Like it's just something that they haven't seen before. Like no one has ever seen in terms of like they're in the UFC. Like we heard this with Whittaker, we heard this with Darren Till. But you felt that. Obviously in training with him and also having fought him. But what you think in terms of like the work that they're putting in there by CIT? Like, because I mean, like now we have Cameron, we have Dricus, we have Mark Hume is also going to be breaking into the UFC. Like the work that they're putting in there by CIT is crazy.
So I mean, look, Morneau's an exceptionally bright man. He's extremely focused to his task. He just also has a different mentality about how he goes about his work. He's also 100% invested in his students and giving them the best opportunity to be successful.
Yeah.
He gives them that life. He gives them that support. He makes sure that they have everything that they need to go out and do the job. They also have the same mindset. There's a group of athletes there that have the same mindset. They have the desire and the want to be successful.
As a unit,
when you put that combination together, you can only get success.
Dang.
but again, rule number one of being successful anywhere in life, it's hard work, and their work ethic is really unmatched at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like you see it, like I don't think it's any by luck or by fluke in terms of like 3 athletes are going to break into the UFC and like all coming from the same gym, you know. And obviously credit to Coach Mornay Fisser there. But yeah, which rounds did you have Dricus fight, or are you? Because I mean, like obviously there's controversy in terms of like how he won the belt, or like did he even deserve it? Did you see it? Obviously, like he's gonna clinch it.
So
like watching it live.
So I mean, I definitely had him winning rounds 2, 3, and 4, and I think that's a lot of what the pundits and people who've been in the game a long time. I think that's what everybody saw.
Yeah.
Rounds 1 and 5 are questionable. They were super tight.
Yes.
I mean, so it could have been a 5-0 to Dricus. It could be 3-2. It's kind of all up in there. But again, that's the story. I mean, you can never leave it to the judges. You need to make sure that you are convincing in the way that you went about it. You go about your work, and you've got to be in control, and you've got to have the desire to win. And that's the difference between the 2 athletes on the night. Sean Strickland did an exceptionally good job to manage the fight defensively. His defensive patterns were remarkable, and he utilized such an effective tool that doesn't get utilized enough in the jab. But in that, he became super defensive, and there wasn't a lot of attacking effort that came from him. You could see that he kind of didn't want to take the chances. He wanted to keep it as tight as possible and kind of win it on the judge's scorecard. But again, that shows you can't leave it there. Dricus was just super effective in everything that he did. He pushed the pace. He was always attacking. He changed the game up. There was head kicks. There was combinations. There was takedowns. There was cage control. So he used the full program. He used the full aspect of MMA to show his skills. You know, again, also for him, it's a world title fight. He's in that position.
It's now or never.
It's now or never. He wants to win. So, for me, it felt he was kind of reserved in what you would normally get out of Dricus. He still was the same animal that was in there, but the pedal was just a little bit slower. He controlled himself for 5 rounds, and everybody questioned his gas tank, and he just got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Look, I don't think that the result was wrong. I think the result is 100% true. Just how you see the results is kind of the question.
Yeah, I also had him for rounds 2, 3, and 4. Like no debate. Like I mean, I wasn't shocked in terms of like it being a split decision. Cause I could also see like Sean winning, I guess 1 and 5, and also like in terms of like I just expected like I expected the ANU. Like I don't see the controversy in terms of like Dricus shouldn't have won that fight or wah, you know. But yeah, credits to him, and like he did say like he's gonna push for everything. Like a world title in terms of like the UFC is like something that he's always dreamed of. But yeah, like it's really crazy. Like, so now how do you see it affecting or like impacting the scale in terms of MMA, South African MMA now? Because we even heard Dana saying like, he's trying to, like Dricus might be the man who's like coming through for him in UFC Africa.
So I think it's kind of a massive changing point for the sport on a global platform, because Africa becomes super accessible, and it's an area that they still haven't controlled UFC. But it does a lot of things. I mean, if you just take the first point, you take Dricus for himself, and he was a young South African boy who had a dream. He gave everything that he possibly could to that, the desire, the want, the discipline. He put himself in a position where he's become a role model to youngsters and to our people out there, and a lot of South Africans, to show that no matter what the circumstances are, no matter where you are in life, where you come from, if you have a dream and you give everything to that, it's possible.
It's true.
What he's done is just there's no words to explain what he's achieved for himself.
The magnitude of it.
And I think he's still going to have to process that as well, and get to grips with that, and understand that He's now the king of the world. He's now the best fighter in the world.
185.
It's the most remarkable thing that he's achieved. And knowing, because I was there,
Yeah.
and knowing what that platform is and how big it is and the scale and what it takes, man, he's elevated himself to a level that not many people can understand. In terms of MMA in this country, it just solidifies everything that's been done over the last 15 years by a lot of people to create a platform where these guys can come through, they can fight on the continent, they can make the next progression to get into the UFC, because that was a possibility that was shown. And then now with him going to the next step, when you get there, it's the possibility of I can be champ because somebody's done it already.
Yeah, I've seen it happen.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
So if he can do it, then I can do it myself.
Yeah.
It gives value. It opens the eyes of the country as well to something that I think had a certain stigma. It had this catapult, and then it kind of de-escalated, and now it's just going to be on this rise again because we have something to be proud of. We have somebody who's there, who's doing it, who's representing the country, and from South Africans, I think, live in this world of sort of oppressed world, and this feeling of we don't have what it takes to take on the world. You know, we've been in an environment where we're constantly fighting losing battles, and we don't see the victories. You know, and he alluded it so much to the Springboks and what they achieved and becoming the world champions again, and winning for consecutive terms. And you know, now he as an individual, you know, that's a team sport. Now that was a team thing. So as a team, we can get there.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, as an individual, we can do it.
Yeah.
And it gives hope, and it gives encouragement, and it just shows us as a country, man, we are exceptional people, and that we can do anything we put our minds to, and we've got to stop living in a way where we feel like we're not capable of going to
limiting ourselves.
Yes. You know, we stop limiting ourselves. You got to open the door and you got to run through it.
Shoo.
What he's done is he's opened the eyes of the country. He's opened the eyes of the continent to say, well, hang on. You know, he has a kid from Hearties who stuck to his guns. He's done everything he said he was going to do.
To the T.
You know, to the T. We have the expertise. I think that's also another side of it, is that he elevated himself to a platform where he's the world champion, but he needed the support, he needed the coaching, he needed the training partners and that to get him there. It gives the other gyms the confidence to say, well, we do have the skill set, we do have the mindset, we do have the ability to train good fighters, to train people to get to the next level. You know, I think we've made up the ground on the rest of the world, and by him being world champion, it shows the distance that we've gone. It also gives us learning blocks. It gives us where we can take from and understand as coaches, and we can see what other coaches are doing and how does that develop in the gym, and how do you build the confidence. It's also the excitement. You know, people are excited about the fact that we've got a world champion. Oh, MMA, I want to be involved in that. I want to see it. The sponsors, the community, the MMA community grows now because there's more fans that have been brought in. You know, because there's a lot of attention around the world. It brings in fans from other countries and other spaces in the world, and people are now focused on Africa and focused on what's happening there. So it does a lot. The game changes completely.